Here is the number that haunts almost every Singaporean: $1 million. But the truth is, most people retiring in Singapore do not have anywhere close to that. And even more surprising, depending entirely on how you live, you may not need it. What you do need is a clear answer to a question almost nobody asks precisely enough. Not, how much should I have saved, but how much do I specifically need given my actual lifestyle, my CPF payout, and the fact that I am likely to live until I am 87. Let us build that answer from the ground up, with real numbers from 2026. Start with the most important fact most retirement calculators ignore. In Singapore, a 65-year-old does not have an average life expectancy of 83 years. That figure is measured from birth. Someone who has already survived to 65 has a remaining life expectancy of another 21.2 years, putting their expected death at 86.2. The most probable age of death for Singaporean men is 87. For women, it is 91. If you plan your retirement money to last 20 years and you live to 90, you run out at 85. That is the maths most retirement plans get wrong before they even start. So plan for 30 years of retirement income, not 20, 30. Now let us talk about what retirement actually costs here. Not in theory. In Singapore dollar reality, 2026. The Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy's Minimum Income Standard research puts the floor at 1,492 Singapore dollars a month for a single elderly person to meet basic needs and participate in society. That is not comfortable. That is the floor below which a dignified retirement becomes difficult. But what does a real, lived retirement actually look like? Researchers at Cooler Insights modeled 3 Singaporean households in 2025. Here is what they found. The Wongs are a couple in their late 50s living in a fully paid 3-room HDB flat in Bedok. They eat at hawker centres most days, take public transport everywhere, visit their children regularly, and take 1 regional trip per year. Their total monthly expenses come to 2,510 Singapore dollars. Not lavish, not miserable. A decent, modest Singaporean retirement. Over 30 years, with 2.5% annual inflation, those expenses compound to approximately $1.63 million in total spending. The Lims are a couple in a fully paid 4-room HDB flat in Bishan. Mr. Lim retired from the civil service. Mrs. Lim was a teacher. They dine out at mid-range restaurants roughly 20 times a month, take 1 long-haul and 2 short-haul trips a year, and have a domestic helper. Their monthly expenses come to $4,230. Over 30 years with the same inflation rate, they spend approximately $2.75 million total. Neither couple owns a car. Both own their flats outright. Remove either of those facts and every number above changes dramatically. Here's what CPF actually covers for each of them. For the Wongs, at the modest $2,510 monthly lifestyle, the full retirement sum CPF LIFE payout of $1,780 covers 71% of their expenses. The remaining $730 per month needs to come from somewhere else. Across 30 years, adjusted for inflation, that gap requires an additional investment portfolio of approximately $175,000, earning a conservative 5% annual yield through Singapore REITs or a globally diversified ETF. For the Lims, at $4,230 a month, the enhanced retirement sum payout of $3,440 covers 81%. The remaining $790 a month requires an additional portfolio of around $190,000. This is the insight the $1 million headline obscures. CPF Life is not supposed to cover everything. It is your income floor, your structural foundation. The investment portfolio above it is the difference between a retirement that feels anxious and one that feels free. And the size of that additional portfolio is far more manageable than most people assume, especially if you start building it before 50. Now let us look at how much CPF the average Singaporean actually has, and whether it is on track. For the cohort turning 55 in 2026, the three benchmarks are the basic retirement sum at $110,200, producing roughly $950 a month for life. The full retirement sum at $220,400, producing $1,780 a month, and the enhanced retirement sum at $440,800, producing between $3,180 and $3,440 a month. The Ministry of Manpower's official data on attainment rates is both encouraging and sobering at the same time. For the cohort turning 55 in 2027, around 8 in 10 active CPF members are expected to set aside at least the basic retirement sum. That is the highest attainment rate ever recorded. But that means 2 in 10 active members are not meeting even the basic level. And among the broader working population, roughly 30% of those turning 55 have not set aside the full retirement sum in either cash or combined cash and property. Not the enhanced retirement sum, the full retirement sum, the level that produces $1,780 a month. What is the gap between the basic payout and the LKY-SPP minimum income standard? It is $542 a month. Over 30 years with inflation, that monthly gap becomes a total lifetime shortfall of over $400,000. That is the financial reality on CPF at the basic retirement sum alone, with no investment portfolio, no rental income, and no support from family. This is why the question, how much CPF do I need, has two completely separate answers depending on what you own. Own your flat outright by 65 with a CPF LIFE payout at the full retirement sum, and you can build a genuinely comfortable retirement budget of $2,500 to $3,000 a month. Still renting at 65? Add $1,000 to $2,500 of monthly housing cost on top of everything above, and the amount you need in CPF and investments roughly doubles. Owning your flat before retirement is not just a housing decision. It is the single biggest retirement decision most Singaporeans make. Now here is a factor that will surprise most people. The number that genuinely keeps retirement planners awake in Singapore in 2026 is not CPF levels. It is medical inflation. Healthcare costs in Singapore are rising at 16.9% in 2026, according to Stashaway's analysis, the highest rate in the region. That is not general inflation. That is the specific acceleration of medical services, specialist care, and hospital costs. A retired Singaporean spending $300 a month on healthcare at 65 will be spending close to $800 a month by 75 at that rate of increase, assuming it normalizes downward but remains elevated. An unsubsidized nursing home bed runs between $3,900 and $5,000 per month. CareShield Life, the government's mandatory long-term care scheme, pays $689 a month if you become severely disabled. That is meaningful support. It is not remotely close to covering a nursing home bill. This is the retirement planning gap that lives in silence. Singaporeans diligently top up their CPF, hit the full retirement sum, draw $1,780 a month, and have never once modeled what happens if one spouse spends 2 years in a care facility at $4,000 per month. MedShield and an integrated shield plan are not optional extras. They are structural requirements for anyone who wants their CPF LIFE payout to remain a source of income rather than disappearing into medical bills. Now let us talk about the most powerful single lever in your retirement planning that most Singaporeans underuse: time. Your CPF special account for members below 55 and your retirement account for those above earns a guaranteed 4% annually. Members below 55 earn an additional 1% on the first $60,000 of combined CPF balances, pushing the effective rate to 5% on that amount. Members above 55 earn 2% extra on the first $30,000 and 1% on the next $30,000, generating up to 6% on the first $60,000. A 25-year-old who makes a voluntary cash top-up of $200 per month into their special account under the Retirement Sum Topping Up scheme will accumulate an additional $238,000 in their retirement account by age 65, purely from 4% compounding over 40 years. The same $200 starting at age 45 produces only $73,000 by 65. The difference is $165,000 from 20 years of waiting. And here's the tax advantage that makes this even more compelling. Every dollar of cash top-up to your own CPF earns a dollar of immediate income tax relief, up to $8,000 per year. On a $60,000 income, your marginal tax rate is 11.5%. Topping up $8,000 a year saves you $920 in income tax immediately, while the $8,000 compounds at 4% inside your retirement account. That is a tax-advantaged, government-guaranteed investment. There is nothing else on the Singapore market that combines those two features. There is one more decision that adds 35% to your retirement income at no cost. It simply requires patience. CPF Life payouts can begin any time between age 65 and 70. For every year you defer beyond 65, your monthly payout increases by approximately 7%. Defer from 65 to 70 and your payout grows by 35%. For someone with the full retirement sum, that lifts the monthly payout from $1,780 to approximately $2,400 for the rest of their life. Over a 20-year retirement from 70 to 90, that difference accumulates to approximately $148,000 in additional income, simply by waiting 5 years while drawing on savings or a part-time income. Most Singaporeans start their payouts the moment they are eligible, at 65, without running this calculation. The calculation takes 5 minutes. The difference is $148,000. So here is how to find your actual number. Take your desired monthly retirement spending. Subtract your expected CPF Life payout at your chosen tier. The remainder is your monthly investment portfolio requirement. Multiply that monthly number by 240 if you want that income to last 20 years, or by 300 if you want it to last 25. Add a separate medical reserve of $150,000 to $200,000 sitting in a conservative instrument. That is your total retirement target. For the Wongs, at $2,510 a month, with full retirement sum payouts covering $1,780, the additional portfolio they need is $175,000 plus the medical reserve. Total retirement target outside CPF, roughly $350,000 in investments and savings, not $1 million. $350,000 built across a working life with consistent CPF top-ups and regular ETF or REIT contributions. Now here is what you can do this week. Open your CPF account through SingPass and check your retirement account balance against the 3 benchmarks for 2026. Look at your projected payout under the CPF Life estimator at the age of 65 and then again at 70. Look at the difference. Then calculate what monthly shortfall you need to bridge with investments outside CPF, multiply by 240 and write that number down. That is your real number. Not the one from a headline, not the one your colleague quoted at lunch, the one that reflects your actual life. The number is almost always smaller than the fear, but it still requires action to reach it. If this video gave you a clear picture of where you actually stand, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. I will see you in the next one.